We have one final time here before the holidays hit and before the bowl game. Mike Riley, Oregon State coach, is on the Guild Mortgage mobile hotline. Yeah, Sook's sipping coconut drinks in Hawaii, Coach.
Well, that's good for him. I guess we can say that, right?
Yeah.
And hope he's enjoying it. Know he is. And anyway, Merry Christmas to all you guys.
Yeah, you
Thanks
too.
for all the time.
You too.
Year.
Oh, always love chatting with you, and certainly Sook's vacation well deserved. Now, before we get to Texas, I want to break down Texas. We'll get to that here, but I got to ask you something. I was reading in the New York Times the other day. They did a story on what they called the game of the century, although it seems like we call everything the game of the century now. But
right.
Do you know what I'm talking about? 1973, when you were at Alabama.
Yeah, okay.
Playing Notre Dame. Yeah.
Sure.
What is your recollection of that game?
Well, I had a good seat. I was on the sidelines, and it was a fabulous setting. I want to say both teams were undefeated, but it was definitely for the national championship. And we had actually been awarded. It used to be that the UPI, United Press, voted before the bowl games. I think it was them. And so we actually had a national championship in hand, and we ended up getting rings. But we lost that game by a point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a fabulous game, and we had them backed up. And had we been able to make them punt at the end, I mean, they were on the -2. And Tommy Clements, the quarterback at Notre Dame, threw a corner out to a tight end, got a first down, and ended the game. But had we made them punt, we were in field goal. We would have been almost in field goal range to try to win the game. It was a great game. It was a great venue. I can remember going on the field or being on the field when Notre Dame came out and they did the Notre Dame fight song, and it was pretty impressive as their team came out. And then a funny thing, ironic thing about that is Tommy Clements, the quarterback that I mentioned, I ended up later coaching him in Canada. He was our quarterback, and he was ended up being a Hall of Fame quarterback in Canada, and is now coaching, I think, with the Packers. So a lot of connections. A great game. It was interesting that it would be named the game of the century, but it was a great football game.
Yes, it was. They were saying in that article that it was significant for a lot of reasons, but at that time it was the South and football, and they said that nobody went down south, although they didn't play it at Alabama. You guys were in New Orleans, but nobody went into the South and beat Bear Bryant at that time. Well,
it was an era where we had 2 years before. As a matter of fact, my freshman year, Alabama went to the Wishbone. And I think in the 4 years that I was there, Isaac, I think we lost 5 games, and 4 of them were bowl games. But we won all the time and won big most of the time. It was a dominating time for Alabama football in the Southeast Conference, and nationally we were always somewhere in the top 5.
This is Oregon State coach Mike Riley. All right, let's get on to the Alamo Bowl. Great matchup with Texas. When you look at them on film, what do you see?
Talent, speed. It's going to be. Somebody asked me about who is the most talented, the most athletic, the fastest, biggest, all that stuff, and it's hard to actually rank it when you get to this stage, but this is one of the most talented teams for sure that we will have seen. We've seen some really good football teams, obviously, through the year, but they've got real good speed. They've got a couple of elite, great running backs, 3 of them, I think, but one of them is questionable about playing, and so it's going to be, we're going to have to really, really play well and really execute what we do offensively, and then defensively we're going to. It's going to be a big challenge because they run some fly sweep stuff, so we'll have to contend with that speed, and of course they can throw the ball, but mostly a big deal will be controlling their running game, because if they get that going, it's hard to win the game.
Can you see on tape what maybe didn't click for them this season?
Well, I think their season clicked. It's just the timing of when they had some rough goes. They had some great games and impressive wins, and then they had some tough ones. Kansas State is such a good football team. That was a really close, hard-fought game, and I think at the time Kansas State might have been ranked second in the country or thereabouts, and so that was a really close game for a long time. So they can play with anybody. And then, Kansas State made some plays and won the game, and so it's football, and they played a lot of good football, and they played a lot of good football teams, and some of them they just couldn't quite win. Oklahoma just got out of hand with them. Oklahoma was hot offensively and did a great job, but besides that, they were all very, very competitive, tough game.
Well, Mac Brown lost his offensive coordinator who took the Arkansas State job, so they promoted Major Applewhite. So they have a new play caller for this game. What kind of a setback is that for you, if at all, in preparation?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to, at this point of the season, to reinvent the wheel. So I don't think we'll see a lot of new stuff. Everybody will tweak something and have something new for a bowl game. That's pretty obvious all the time. You've got to be ready to adjust, and you've got to play with some real awareness, because everybody will throw in some wrinkles. But I think who they are and what they've done is going to be pretty standard, and then you've just got to play ball from there. And what they'll emphasize will be the key. You can't take your whole volume of the season and put it into one game. So how they approach it and what they put into this game, that will be what the new coordinator will have his biggest job of doing, is just selecting from what they've done, what they're going to try to emphasize against the Beavers. Where
is Texas maybe most vulnerable?
Oh, I don't know. That's a hard one. As we approach them, and I'm thinking offensively right now, what we have to do is try to establish, what have been good things for us. And then, as I just mentioned, that throw some curveballs in there. And so we won't change our identity in this game, but we've tried to pick out the right stuff that will fit what Texas does. So where we could be the most effective is finding balance. If we can run against that impressive physical defensive front that they have, that will help totally in what we want to do in the passing game, and give us an opportunity to keep them off balance. So that's kind of our goal in this thing as we go. But I don't know, vulnerability-wise, they have good athletes everywhere, so I wouldn't be able to say, well, let's pick on this area, because you can't see that when you watch their film.
And where are you with the quarterback decision?
Oh, you know what? We are. We have to be closer because we're getting closer to the game. But we'll probably later in the week make a decision about who's going to start and how it's all going to work. But right now, with the amount of time we have and everything, I've appreciated letting them both have equal time with the first team. So it's been pretty even, and we've had good practices.
And Wisconsin called you. Did you get a kick out of all that coverage?
I kind of did, because somebody even asked me or said to me, "You seem amused by this," and I was, because there was a ton of fiction involved. There was obviously some truth to what was going on, although nothing much was really going on. There was no interview. I never even talked to anybody in Wisconsin. Isaac, it was a deal where a second party called and said that they were interested. So I just assumed that there was interest, and I didn't take it any further than that, because, as I've told you and many people, my intention is to stay here as long as I can and keep scratching and grinding, trying to win a championship and get to the Rose Bowl. That's what we want to do someday.
Sure. So when a second party calls you, what is that? Do they call your agent? Do they call you, and they're calling on behalf of Wisconsin? How does that work?
A connection with Wisconsin is how it worked,
Okay.
And it's a good way in our world to kind of circumvent probably a lot of other stuff, and unfortunately it gets out.
Sure.
And it causes some stuff, the distraction stuff that really never had to occur.
Sure. All right, Oregon State coach Mike Riley, they're taking on Texas in the Alamo Bowl. Have a great holiday, coach, and good luck in the game.
Oh, good to be on with you again, Isaac. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Always love our visits with Coach Riley. Yeah, I think the lengths that these ADs and these administrations go to keep these coaching searches and interviews quiet, you would be stunned. You would be stunned at the lengths some of these folks go to hide who they're interviewing, where their plane's going, who they're talking to, what they're thinking. And I'm amazed actually at how, because there's such a need, there's such a I guess an appetite for this kind of information, and everybody goes crazy when you see a report that Mike Riley will interview at Wisconsin. It's just that people eat this stuff up, and because they're all over it, I'm amazed at how a lot of these operations are actually done fairly secretly. I mean, the Arkansas hired Brett Bielema from Wisconsin, and nobody saw that coming at all. And so a lot of them actually have been pretty good about keeping it all under wraps. But word got out about that Wisconsin thing, and they try to hide it all, but there really wasn't anything to it. Who would you start at quarterback, Mannion or Vaz? We talked to Brandon Sprague earlier, our Beavers insider. He said he'd be shocked if it wasn't Sean Mannion starting the bowl game. That's interesting. And David Ash, if you haven't heard, David Ash is going to be the quarterback at Texas. They've been going with two guys this year, and Ash got the nod. So that game next Saturday night, the 29th. I think it starts at about 3:30 our time in San Antonio.